For a long time, Aston Martin has wanted to be Britain's Ferrari, and now they have the car. This is the Valhalla, a mid-engine carbon fibre, 1,000 horsepower plus hypercar. It attempts to take learnings from the incredibly extreme but incredibly cool Valkyrie and blend them with some more traditional Aston Martin DNA and some actual usability. It sounds like a brilliant recipe. We have an entire day on circuit, plenty of time on the road to drive, slide, hop over curbs, destroy tyres, and generally make a solid conclusion as to whether this is a really convincing reinvention of Aston Martin and a proper car to worry Ferrari.
Aston Martin certainly aren't shying away from the Ferrari comparison. In fact, when I ask what its true rivals are, they barely pause before mentioning the F80. Valhalla is literally millions less than the F80 at £850,000, but the message is confident and crystal clear. Valhalla is hypercar, not supercar.
So Valhalla, I've been waiting for this for a long time. We saw this car a very long time ago, and it's changed markedly in its development. But what we have now is something pretty special. Carbon tub, obviously, maximum power 1,064 brake horsepower, 1,079 PS. That comes from a combination of a 4-litre twin turbocharged V8, the flat plane crank V8 from AMG, but power output of that has gone up to 828 PS, 816 brake horsepower. Then in the front, we have 2 electric motors, so we can have proper torque vectoring for the front axle, and then built into the brand new 8-speed dual clutch gearbox, there's a 3rd electric motor.
This layout is becoming familiar, and the 3 electric motors bring lots of good stuff. Torque vectoring, torque fill, sophisticated stability control tuning, but they also add weight and take up space. In fact, the Valhalla has no room for luggage at all. For some, this will be a game over moment, but Aston say they're on target to have all 999 sold very soon.
Other stuff on this car, like I said, carbon fibre tub. The whole engineering of this car was done in collaboration with AMPT, Aston Martin Performance Technologies, which is the consulting arm of the F1 team. So we have inboard front dampers. This car still runs Bilstein DTX dampers like the rest of the range, Vantage, Vanquish, etc. Obviously a much more extreme utilisation here, but they say that on the road it's still very much an Aston Martin. So I'm intrigued to see how they balance the precision, the track performance of a carbon tubbed mid-engined sort of hypercar with the Aston Martin traits of ride quality and fun and fluidity at lower speeds. But yeah, inboard front dampers, there's so much cool stuff with this car. This car's got the mag wheels on it, carbon ceramic discs obviously, 6 pots at the front, 410mm discs. They make great claims about this. This car, because of the complication, is not a flyweight. It's 1,655 kilos dry. If you get the mag wheels, you shave 12 kilos off and it's in the right place, so I would absolutely do that.
At the front, there's a fully concealed front spoiler. Essentially, it looks like an F1 wing without the end plates. In EV Sport and Sport Plus modes, it sits flush with the underfloor with just a small gurney managing the airflow. However, in race mode, it retracts to switch on the underbody turning vanes and energise the rear diffuser. Now, Valhalla is capable of generating 600 kilos of downforce from 149 miles an hour to the max speed of 217.
We've got this big snorkel. It's got 3 feeds into it effectively. One goes directly into the intakes. Then you have another feed into the hot V itself, because obviously the turbocharger's big old turbo is much bigger than in the AMG Black Series with that higher output, so they get very hot. And then 3rd feed for the air-to-air charge coolers effectively. Like I say, lots of power, 816 horsepower to the rear wheels plus a little bit of that electric assistance. This is the rear wing. Now there is no poser mode. You can't just press the button and have the wing come up. You have to be in race mode. That's when you unlock the performance of this car, the aerodynamic performance. This rear wing rises 255mm.
The hydraulic rams provide a wide range of movement from air brake to DRS modes. In race mode, active aerodynamics unlocked, the Valhalla obviously delivers its fastest lap times. However, it's in Sport and Sport Plus modes you get the most straight line performance, as the batteries will deplete more quickly and the electric motors will help deliver the full combined 1064 horsepower. Race is more about consistent performance lap after lap. There's also a full EV mode.
We've also got a top exit exhaust system here. So we've got the two exhausts up here, but there are actually two further exhausts that exit down under this big diffuser. Obviously a lot of underbody aerodynamics as well. Funnily enough, when the car is in quiet mode, if you like, it's these exhausts that are working. The ones down in the diffuser are the really noisy ones, which probably isn't what you'd expect. But I love a top exit exhaust. So I think what's cool about this is there's a bit of Valkyrie, there's a bit of theatre, and then there's a bit of Aston Martin, and they've tried to mix it all together into this completely new flavour of car. I'm absolutely fascinated to see what a mid-engined non-Valkyrie Aston Martin. The Valkyrie was such a spaceship, it was a different thing altogether. It was almost forget it was an Aston Martin, it was an Adrian Newey car. This is a real competitor to what? Let's find out. Is it a Testarossa Plus or a Revuelto Plus, or is it a Ferrari F80 Lite?
So far, I can definitely see why Aston want to pitch the Valhalla towards the top end. Inside, that impression continues.
The interior is pretty special, and it starts actually from when you get in. It's got these dihedral doors that take away some of the roof. There's loads of headroom. They're really keen to make sure you could wear a crash helmet, shut the roof without bashing your head, basically. And it's, despite these fixed carbon fibre bucket seats, really easy to get in and out of. The cars here all have slightly different interiors. Some are normal carbon fibre. This is this chopped car, but I was surprised quite how minimalistic it was. I think of Aston Martins as the Vanquish, that lovely leather and materials, and I thought they might try and introduce some of that into here for the Aston identity, but they're clearly confident that they can bring in the Aston identity from the driving experience. So very Spartan, very simple. I quite like it. There's carbon everywhere, obviously. You can see that you're leant back, your feet are in a high position. They're not higher than your hip point, but they're pretty close. Steering wheel, square top, square bottom, does feel like a bit Valkyrie, but bigger, quite chunky, but feels really nice. Long paddles, obviously, that move with the steering wheel. Down here is familiar, the gear selector, familiar to anyone who's been in a modern Aston Martin. And this is the engine start button. So to get it going, brake, press the engine start button, and nothing happens, because this car will do 14 kilometers up to 80 kilometers an hour in pure EV mode. But if I twist this, I go from EV to Sport Plus, and then I can go into race. That's the track setting, and at about 50 kph, I think it is, the rear wing will come up and you'll be fully dialed into the aero mode, stiffer suspension, etc. But even in race mode or in any of the modes, you can click a button here and you can adjust the suspension. So you can have race mode but have sport suspension or Sport Plus suspension if you want to slide the car a bit more, for example. But basically, what's really cool about it is the driving position, the simplicity, and it feels like you're in some sort of prototype race car, Le Mans type car, because there's this really small glass house, but funnily enough, still really good visibility, and we've got a camera system for the rear view mirror. So there's nothing revolutionary in here in some ways, but it feels special. You feel like you're in something that's a cut above a normalish supercar. This really does feel like it's trying to bridge the gap between really quick supercars and that top level hypercar. So I'm really intrigued to see how that manifests itself on the track, and that is what we're going to do right now, finally. We're actually on the less extreme tyre at the moment. I tried it a little bit earlier on Cut 2s, but the base character remains the same. The driving position is fantastic, and there's a responsiveness, a stiffness to the chassis, this lovely calm steering response, but real agility that feels more hypercar than supercar. It isn't faster than Revuelto, Testarossa, etc. really in a straight line. If it is, not that it matters, you know, these things are so quick. But it feels a much more focused, much more Valkyrie chaser, F80 chaser than a conventional supercar that's just been brought up with better technology. It's unbelievable braking stability. It's fantastic the way you can attack it. And they've worked hard on the traction control. They use that front E-axle to actually apply power when the car needs correction. So rather than talking back the engine all the time, wherever they can, they use the front axle to pull the car to the correct attitude, which is really nice. And they say it's very hard to feel that intervention. And I've got the traction control on, gotta say, they're right, it's very, very effective.
Like other Astons, the Valhalla has a trick variable traction control. Disable the ESP and it defaults to level 5 for the TC, dial it down towards 1 for more intervention or up for less. Click it all the way to 9 and TC is disabled. Let's start in 5.
But what's extremely noticeable immediately is that the car feels light and really, really precise, but with a very obvious playfulness to the chassis. It's quite a different take on a car because, like I say, it's got this real hypercar feel and it's stuck through this quick corner. You can just carry speed and then attack the brakes. But then when you boot it out of a corner, it feels really, really playful, like a Vantage or something, which is pretty wild. Performance fantastic. And where I think it also differs from some of the other cars with this E front axle system is that you almost don't know it's there. In the ZR1X, it's very, very good until the car starts to move around, and then it starts to feel more like it's trying to help you out. Just going to go up to 7 on the traction control. In the Ferrari, pretty much invisible under power, but if you adjust the car or turn in off the power, it starts grabbing and driving and braking and doing strange things, even with the traction control off. This doesn't appear to, and I talked a lot about the torque vectoring, the power of it, but it doesn't feel powerful in a synthetic way. The way they've used it is very natural and intuitive. It's, I think, probably the best front E-axle programming that I've driven. Sorry to keep going on about it, but it's such a huge feature of these new hypercars. Supercars, hypercars, I don't know. What are they anymore? Gearbox, this new 8-speed DCT box, it punches really hard. I have to say, when you get near the limiter or hit the limiter and then do an upshift, it's really quite harsh, and it feels like it does it even in the corners, which I think is a bit too much. Fantastic balance though. You can see how I can turn the car off the power, let it slide, and then just drive through it. And it, again, for a car with this level of grip and this precision, to be able to hang it out in 4th gear and still maintain speed is pretty cool. Just the consistency of the car, the precision and the playfulness, I think that's maybe the magic of the car, is it combines those two things really, really well.
Lose the assistance altogether and the Valhalla remains super indulgent should you happen to have many sets of tyres to burn.
Yeah, the only thing I've struggled with is that the engine doesn't rev super high, and so it's quite easy to tag the limiter, and then you get that super harsh gear shift, so you really have to be watching the shift lights. But in terms of stability, balance, playfulness, and this sort of, I love the way I can just hustle it. It's really, really good. I don't know what's more fun, when you're sliding it around or when you're just really attacking the braking zones and the curbs on entry.
On track, the Valhalla is deeply impressive. It looks and feels special, and dynamically it can live with that promise. Precise, playful and devastatingly quick, it's one of those cars that keeps revealing more and more of itself the faster you go. The engine doesn't have the theatre of a Revuelto, but the whole car is a very different proposition. It feels pure and with a bit more motorsport about it. Yet Aston has managed to retain some of the warm character of their front engine cars too. I like this new flavour, that's for sure. On the road, well, I suspect it might shine brighter still. Spain always delivers the perfect stage too.
First impressions, let's talk about the ride quality. I feel like a broken record because all of these cars, low centre of gravity, carbon chassis, really stiff, expensive dampers, long wheelbase, they're tailor-made to have a lovely ride, and nearly all of them do, and this is no exception. It's got a really nice ride. I'm in Sport Plus mode, so I've got all the power, but I can adjust the dampers if I want. I actually like it in Sport Plus for the dampers. Sport to me is a little bit too, just a little bit out of control if you start to go a bit quicker. But that sense on the track of sort of real precision allied to this light on its feet feeling is actually amplified on the road, I think. And in this Sport Plus mode, the E-diff, the front E-axle, the programming is all about creating that impression of lightness and turning agility, giving you that yaw moment. So the car just feels like it's alive all the time. It's really, really cool. The performance sort of goes without saying, is completely insane and fantastic. Is it as fast as the Testarossa or the Z1X? I mean, it's fast enough. Like, this car is fast enough for you, for me, for anyone. The performance is not something to worry about. Okay, so what about brake feel as well? I'm quite intrigued about this because on the track, you're just stamping on the brakes. Here on the road, that crossover between regen and friction braking is really hard to judge, but again, the detail work is really good and they feel superb. The pedal, longer than a Porsche pedal, not as long as a McLaren pedal. It's sort of somewhere in the middle, but it's got pretty decent initial response. Things quick. And there's just a real lightness to the car and a sense that it really is optimized for the road. It did so well on the track, but it's clearly a car that wants to be driven on a great road. I guess it's possible you want to know about EV mode. 14 kilometers. I've never seen the range go up above 8, I don't think. 80 miles an hour. It's quiet. Okay, that covers that. Sport mode is more of the hybrid mode. Pretty good for everyday stuff, but I don't know. Like, I drive one of these things, I'm like, why wouldn't you want to be in a Sport Plus mode? Still really comfortable. You can dial down the dampers if you want, but you get access to the performance and everything feels like the car's come together as it should be. Okay, I criticised the Testarossa engine slightly Because although the response and the power is just fantastic, and it sounds good right at the top end, it can feel quite harsh and just not that special. I'm not going to pretend it's a gorgeous sonorous engine, but it's got a nice hard edge to it. But more than that, there's more texture than in the Ferrari. There's more turbo noise, there's more electric noise, there's stuff going on. If you drive it in race, but in the slightly softer suspension, you get the noise of the front underfloor spoiler operating and the hydraulic noise of the rear wing. There's just a soundscape to this car that actually makes it feel quite special and somehow more cutting edge than the Testarossa did, which is silly because the tech is similar, but yeah, you can hear it. It sounds pretty cool. And when you light it up, that lightness of touch that you feel from the chassis just builds and it goes with you as you start to push harder. Yeah, you can really exploit the car. The gearbox, this new 8-speed dual clutch, it's a good box without a doubt, but it isn't as good as Ferrari. Ferrari is so good at dual clutch boxes. And this, it's fast, but it doesn't have that, just that positivity that really creates a special feeling from the gearbox. And if you go near the rev limiter, you've got a very harsh rev limiter, and then the gear shift is deliberately harsh, almost to punish you. So it's like a double whammy, and it really upsets the car.
Even so, the Valhalla feels a shockingly polished product, considering it's the first ever mid-engined production Aston Martin. From the strong, nicely integrated torque feel to the lovely, accessible balance and everything in between, the Valhalla feels brilliantly resolved and cohesive.
I think the most important thing about this is that it feels very special all the time. And part of that is the sophistication of what it's doing, married to that precision that we've already talked about. But then there's just this lovely agility and tactile feel to the whole car. I was trying to think of a car that this most reminded me of when I was driving up here earlier. And it's definitely its own unique thing. But I kept thinking, it feels like next generation 750S. If I had to imagine what a next generation McLaren 750S would be like, I sort of get to this car. And that's not a bad place to be. Let me tell you, that is not a bad place to be. So we're back at the hotel, we're about to head off to the airport. It's been a brilliant couple of days. We've had so much access to the car, and it's been useful because this is a completely different sort of Aston Martin. The Valhalla on the track is fantastic. It blends this hyper-aggressive hypercar feel with a really indulgent, slidable, fun, malleable chassis. So I really enjoyed it. And then on the road, all those traits get exaggerated, plus you get this crazy soundscape of the engine, the aero, the electric motors. There's just a lot going on. There's a lot of texture and richness to the whole experience. It's a mega, mega car. Now, I've driven a lot of these cars lately, so F80 to ZR1X to Ferrari Testarossa, and it's hard when you drive them in isolation to compare them to each other. I guess my fear was Valhalla would be a Testarossa plus a little bit more, not an F80 type car. However, Aston Martin themselves said, we want you to compare it to the F80. That's the sort of target we're shooting for. And I can see why. Performance-wise, it doesn't matter. They're all so incredibly fast. It's almost irrelevant. The F80 is the quickest, if you need to know. I think the Testarossa actually feels slightly quicker than Valhalla, but they're all so fast, it doesn't really matter. But in terms of experience, where do you rank them? Well, Testarossa is a fantastic supercar. I love driving it, but it feels like a supercar with performance elevated. F80 is absolutely wild on the road, so intense. I can't tell you how intense it is, and it sounds terrible from the outside, I know that, but when you're in the thing, it feels alive and scary and fantastic and technology overload. There's just so much going on. It's a mega car, and the Valhalla sort of bridges that gap. To me, it's definitely a hypercar, you can tell, because everywhere you park it, people gather. And it's got this really great usability as well, so I'm super impressed by it. I think it's a big step up from Testarossa and Revuelto. It's as fast as you would ever need a car to be, and it brings an intensity to a supercar experience, a hypercar intensity, but then a supercar usability, which is a pretty good trick. I think it's pitched just about perfectly. It's a great car, and Aston Martin have done a really, really good job. I've thoroughly enjoyed driving it. Can't wait to do so again, but the Aston Martin is right up there.